day everyone. The subject would be contemporary world. Specifically the birth of capitalism and initial growth of capitalism, including the 20th century capitalism, also the decline of British Empire, the closure of Japanese economy towards the West, and also the factors contributing to the initial growth and the rise of capitalism, including how it started, when it started, and where it initially started. So without further ado, a formal introduction. I am Ashley Punay, and here is my partner.
I am Sharaib Sisi.
And first things first, let's define what is capitalism and feudalism as a political system. So capitalism is a system or a political and economic system where private individuals or group of individuals owns a private corporation that produces services, goods, and products for profit. While feudalism is a system where distribution of land is predominantly dominate. So, for example, nobles giving lands to those monarchy rather giving lands to those nobles in return for their pledge and loyalty, and nobles could get protection and sense of belongingness on a country by provided by those monarchs. So also nobles giving land to knights and soldiers in exchange also for their loyalness and pledge to the nobles, and also the protection and they an assurance also that they would fought for those nobles. Next, and lastly, nobles giving land to those farmers and peasants for production food purposes. So feudalism is a system na ang lord sa land giving land to those vassals, or the ang vassals is those people that was given land na in return for their work and their loyalty. Naigo na ako kanina. So without further ado, let's start how or when rather capitalism occur. So one could look of the historical context and growth of capitalism. In 13th century fathers or northern part of Belgium, the flourishment of wooden industry encompasses the region. And also in 14th century Florence, expansion of trade sought after na form na ang capitalism, naka-gain niya siya of footing. And also long distance travel or long distance trade was established, contributing to capitalism in 11th century, creating flourishing trade routes between Venice and Netherlands, creating or connecting pockets between Europe. So despite all of that, despite sa mga advancement in terms of trades, living standards kept at the lowest or low na percentage or low na living standard, since not until 18th century na nag-elevate na ng living standards, okay na ilang hygiene in terms of food rations, availability of food, and food security and clothings. Next, contributing factors to the growth of capitalism is the decline of feudalism. As commerce grew, feudal vassal lost their power. Na ang katong let's define what is feudal vassal first. So feudal vassal are those people that was given land by their lords. So na lost yung lang power, then they are replaced by merchants and early capitalists in terms of trade of food and pag-provide sa food. Next is the rise of capitalism through innovation and technological advancement, mainly in navigation and sail towards the mga lugar na mga abundant ang mga raw materials such as spices, mostly in Southeast Asia or Southeast Asia. So through this innovation in technology, ang katong mga ship na gi-investan sa mga mostly sa mga early capitalists is makadala na silang spices from those region na naingon ako, Southeast Asia and South Asia. Next, factors contributing changes toward capitalism. So let's answer this . The rise of capitalism in the West, or anong man ang rise of capitalism sa West. So the rise of capitalism in the West is supported by institutions such as the Dutch East India Company, for example, coupled with industrialization and urbanization in Northern Europe. This shift weakened the feudal system of the Europe. So from feudalism, nag-evolve sila into capitalism rather. So, a question, why was Europe? Ano Europe man gid ang origin of capitalism or the advancement of technology? So, unique combination of such as socio-cultural and norms and the existence of multiple ethnicity encourage them or napugo sila mag-evolve into more na mas sustainable and more formidable na mga countries in order to survive since most of their neighbors want them to be eliminated. So this create an ripe environment for capital growth and development, not only for capital and also in the military aspect. Next is the factor that spurred the growth of capitalism in the West. So principle of private property. In the feudal system, principle of private property is di siya non-existing kay mostly sa feudal lords is di sila makahimo og own or independent decision without the consultation of their lord na original such as nobles and monarchs. So they are still controlled by their superiors. So in the concept of private property or ownership, they could do anything they could without the little to no supervision of those na mas taas sila ha. So maka-invest sila, imon nila og agronomic land, magtanom sila og mga agronomic crops like wheat, corn or rice without little to no interference. I have said earlier, little to no interference sa government. I have said sa akong gingon kanina. So depositing in banking, another contributor. So bank provides safekeeping of their money and profit they earn, and also if they don't have money or capital to grow or to fund their expedition or businesses, they could loan from the bank. Next is the formal contracts. Agreements between entrepreneur and early form of capitalist na in the form of contract kay ma-fix ilang barriers, ma-secure ang integrity sila gisabutan and ma-meet ang ilahang gusto or ilahang need na gisabutan sa contracts. So craft, guild and merchant application or association rather. This group was created by multiple merchants or institutions. This group protected the interest of each worker, whether you are a navigator, a sailor, or a cook on a ship or a wagon. In a wagon, ang driver ka sa operate ka sa horse in a wagon, maprotektahan ka imuhang interest and also your wage na ma-meet to ang standard wage sa kailangan nimo sa imong trabaho. So it also promotes standards in corporations na ang mga methods on paghimo na kay muslag rules and anang mga rules na kailangan nila sundon or protocols they could follow in order to do or mahimo nila maayo ang ilang mga trabaho or while trade sila. Next is joint stock companies. This allowed multiple investors to share profit and risk together. Diba? Most of companies are founded by those investors and stakeholders buying their stocks. So, mostly mga entrepreneurs ay mostly sa mga investors mag-invest sila sa shares of a certain company in order na mangampo po sila na mudako to siya na company para mas dako ilang stocks na mag-gain after na moment sila after mag-grow ang isang company. So insurance, this it reduces the risk or mabayaran sila mabayaran sila biskan na damage ang isa ka company or for example the wago ships are kanang na ship na naguba sa tropical storms or hurricanes biskan na wipe out to tanan ship and also the spices or the goods na nagkarga sa ship is mabayaran sila at least na sila compensation for those losses muna na provides insurance. International finance market, this enable the flow of capital and across borders without little to no interference of government because nag-establish sila og network between sa mga government such as America and Britain. Pwede na ka maka-trade without hassle na. So government support open markets. So government help by reducing trade barriers. As I've said earlier, present siya sa international free financial market na ang borders is more loosely na in terms of trade, so easy na lang kayong access from one point to another point. They protect merchants from those ang pirates, especially pirates kay kuan man kay uso kang pirates sa una at that time mostly between 15th century and mga 19th century mga anak bana-bana. Next is let's discuss the key factors driving change in Europe. First is the Protestant reform. So most of industrialization begins, di siya most is kuan yun. Industrialization begins in Northern Europe, mainly in UK or United Kingdom. This contributed by those Protestants. So Protestant is Protestant originally gikan sila sa Britain kay kuan sila nagprotesta sila sa Papa sa una sa Italy. So Protestant have work ethics. They promote hard work, also frugality, the carefulness of using or economical usage of money, and also the efficiency in terms of work. These factors or this view of those Protestants supported the growth of capitalism and the industrialization. Next, rise of strong nation and states between 16th century to 19th century. These states, including the US, Britain, Germany, and France, are a strong state created favorable condition for those corporations or or capitalists that want to establish businesses. These conditions, such as free domestic market, allowed them to trade or to initiate demand and supply with little to no interference of the government. And uniform monetary system, law is monitoring them in terms of how goods are regulated, how market is regulated, and the pricing of those products and services. Contracts and property law, another environment created by the rising power of nation states. This provides fixed na mga sabot between contractors and other businesses na ma-meet ang standards nilang ginapangita. Ma-regulate ang contracts through law that was created by those government and those countries. So protection via police and militia. So government also protects those corporations from those na mga stealers or mga plunderers such as pirates. Such as pirates ang pinakanin na example rather. And also those corporations could hire militia or individual or private military to protect them. So legal na siya in sa jurisdiction or legal na siya in most countries such as US and mostly countries in Europe. Basic infrastructure. Most of corporations and companies funds mga creation of bridges, railroads, because they need it to transport their goods. So kung wala to siya, dito siya ma-exist, di po sila ka trade or di po sila ka export and import of products. So through this creation of transportation and communication, makagamit po ang mga citizens such as normal citizens such as us. And also in terms of communication, such as telecommunication companies, that is their main product they are selling or services they are selling, the access in communication and networks. So power shift from feudal lords to absolute monarchs. So feudal lords are those lords that have that possess lands, large portion of lands. Those lands is nahatag siya sa monarchs. So absolute ang monarchs is control nila most of lands. It has absolute power on lands. Then these monarchs are mostly sa Europe pagka revolutionize pag-begin sa French Revolution, kaya nawala naman mostly sa mga monarchs. Ang na-remain lang is mostly ang Britain lang guro. Parang nowadays ang monarch lang sa Britain. Ito is from monarch nag-switch punta into more democratic countries. Then siya pagka democratic countries adapt capitalism. So ang power na transfer na siya into middle class, those investors or those rich people that controls most of corporations. Next, scientific and social advancement. Third din siya. The Enlightenment from 17th century to 18th century. Scientific discoveries significantly improve the production and knowledge of those peoples, of the people in general. So, discovery of nitrogen, the use, na-discover of nitrogen, but the utilization of nitrogen into fertilizer is wala pa. But through scientific discoveries and scientific innovations, the usage of nitrogen into fertilizer was monopolized by by the 18th inventor. Wala ko kahinom daw sa inventor, but na monopolize niya, and also the invention of electricity. So with electricity, coal are not needed anymore, or needed yapon siya, but di na siya at high number. So mas ma-utilize na ang production in massive production and massive industrialization in the field of agriculture and industry. So emphasis on individual rights and responsibilities. This was contributed by those by writers such as David Hume, Adam Smith, and Thomas Jefferson. They created a sense of belongingness into a certain society. Into a certain society. Gina-create niya na kita individual is must contribute to society or for common good. Dapat natay mahimos tong life, natay purpose, and etc. Next is the reduced power of church and state, empowering the middle class. So most of people from enlightenment or the period of massive technological growth is di na kasi mutuo kayo sa di na kasi mutuo sa God or sa true divine being. Kay mostly na explain naman sa science ang creation of origin of human through evolution, when where and when na create ang planet, and also the explain na po na dili kita ang heart sa universe, which sa atong solar system and universe, which is sun, and di pa man establish ang heart sa universe. So sa solar system, ang heart sa solar system ito is the sun. So through this nagdagan ang mga agnostics, undecided na if whether God exists or not, and the atheist. So also when the power of the church declined, and nahatag na siya mostly sa states, sa government, kay sa una ga-share ang monarch and ang church sa power, but itong nag-decline ang power sa church, na-shift na siya into monarchs. Then monarchs was diminished by those by new government, which is the democratic government. So ang democratic government nag-embrace sa capitalism. So ang power is na bali na po sa middle class, which is the ruling class sa mga corporation, mga owners sa corporations na ga-produce sa goods and services. So next sa enlightenment is the encourage political revolution, especially in USA or United States of the America, England, Holland or Belgium, and France. So they created reforms in their laws in order to makater ang growing capitalism, industrialization of the middle class. So nag-create sila reform na mas ma-improve pa ang improvements sa technology. Daghang investor dili na mahinder ang mga private corporation sa ilahang jurisdictions. And lastly, capital accumulation. So in the early stage of voyage or exploration into unknown worlds, especially in Americas, nakaabot na sila dito, mostly Europeans. They discovered that America is abundant in natural resources such as gold and silver. So these natural resources was mined by those Europeans, and with the help of those indigenous, they enslaved. So atong mga nakuha nila ng mga riches and golds, gidala nila balik sa Europe para ma-utilize to fund the growth of industrialization and capitalism in that continent. So, nahuman na ta sa atong topic na how did capitalism start and when did it started, where it started, and also the contributing factors how capitalism initially rise. So, mag-continue na ta into capitalism and colonialism of the Americas and Australia. Those continents are inhabited by those indigenous people, pero little to no number lang sila. So Ate Sisi will explain how it started and when it started. Ihatag ng baso sa akong partner, si Ate Sisi.
And now, it's my turn. So we have to talk about the capitalism and colonialism. Now we have to start the spread of capitalism to North America and Australia. So we have to straight to the point. So now, first we have to do the favorable conditions in North America and Australia. Indigenous population were relatively small. Sa kanan siya, kuan pa rin sa mga indigenous population anikis. Gamay pa sila, dili o paradaghan. Next is European dominance. As European, immigrant means nga gikan ka sa gawas ng kuan ka og laing country. Mainly ani is ang English and French settled sa dirang area. Their numbers grew rapidly. Sa ilang pagkuan ani nga country, ming kuan sila, ming daghan-daghan na sila. Na sometimes outnumbering na sila sa indigenous people. Then next is industrial growth. Immigrants brought skills and technologies from Europe, leading to the creation of new industries. Diri is kuan kanang gikan sa Europe na mga skills sila dito nga nakuha, then ilahang gidala diri sa, for example, kita ato taglaing lugar din nakahibalo taog kanang mga technologies nila dito, mga innovations nga bag-o nilang na discover, then sa pag-abot sa pag-ulit sa ato ang gidala gisuon na to, then munang maingon na siya nga kanang they brought skills nga gikan sa other countries sa ato. Then next is expansion of capitalism. This environment fostered the growth of capitalist economies driven by European settles. Next is limited spread of capitalism in other regions. Dense indigenous populations in Africa, the Indian subcontinent, East Asia, and Latin America, indigenous population were large. Kani sila nga kaning mga indigenous population is na ano siya as in nga ming dako na gyud ang ilang population bitaw na siya din. Next is colonial strategy. European colonists outnumbered by indigenous people. Means nga kaning mga kuan, minsan ay mga yung European colonists is
mostly di nila makaya og dominate
ang
Africa kay basta ma-outnumber man sa indigenous people. So unlike sa America and Australia, din na ma-dominate lang yung indigenous people kay gamay lang kasi in number, and dire sa ani ng mga regions is the people in here is more mas populated sila. So mo siyang factors kung di nila makaya og subject ng ani ng mga countries.
The next is focus on primary products. Colonists were pushed to produce raw materials. Muragi means ani nga muragi push gid sila nga kani nga mga materials nga ilaha jud need nila nga i-produce yun like spices and rest, pero daghan pa gid siya nga mga raw materials para ma-export nila sa laing country. Ang example is ang Europe yun. Next is lack of industrial development with the focus on export. Kani sila nag-focus sa mga paggawas sa mga products. There was little motivation or infrastructure to build local industries. Then next is result. Capitalism and industrial technologies were less developed in these regions compared to North America and Australia. It means nga ang ilaha diri nga kuan is less ra kayo sila development ba? Kay ang ubang region, ang pinakakuan diri kay ang North America, Australia is high gid sila sa development na. Then next we have to talk about this Japan's economic closure. Meiji restoration and Japan's rapid industrialization. First is closed society. Japan was largely isolated from the world, maintaining a closed door policy. Kasi sila is nagkuan na sa usa nila ay kanang nag-stick na rin na sa ilang policy bitaw. Ano sila? Ilang mga culture na. Then next is feudal system. Kani-ganiya is na discuss naman ni kong partner. Bunay nga about ng feudal system. The country was governed by a rigid feudal structure with a strong caste system. Next, isolation and mistrust. So makasabot naman siguro ito ng isolation and mistrust, no? Japan's insular culture lead to mistrust of foreigners. Ganyan kay murag nayon hitabo siguro nga kanang konbitaw nga mo nang nakuan silang so na silang salig sa kanang mga foreigners and resistant of outside influences. Next is wake up call. In this con is in 1853, Commodore Perry from the US sailed into Yokohama Harbor. Means Yokohama Harbor, partner?
A place in Japan na this particular place, mga Americans is demonstrate nila ang capability sa West. So at this point, at the time nag-demonstrate nilang power sa West demonstrate nilang power sa West to Japan, na kuratan ang Japan sa how ang West is technologically advanced compared to them. So this particular instance na pugos la na mag-cooperate sa West o mag-trade sa West. So at this time also gipugos po nila sa Amerika kay gusto sa Amerika na sila ally in Pacific, and also as like daw point god daw extension sila ang country para na sila makuanan sila mga warships na sila masettle na mabutnan sila mga warship. Moto siya ang purpose sa Amerika na pugson ang Japan into trade within them anang silang duha.
Very good. Thank you, partner. The next is response to Western treat. Treat, it means katong kano siya, partner, no? Kanang treat nimo. Kanang gihadlok ba or daghatag sila og kanang kwan. Recognizing their vulnerability, Japan launched the Meiji Restoration in 1868 to modernize the nation. Next is adoption of Western technologies. Japan rapidly adopted Western technologies to build steel industries, railways, and modern navy. Diri na time is kuan sa ang Japan is dali ra sila naka-adapt sa mga Western technology. Like makahimo na silang mga railways kanang mga sa train or mga kanang ship na to karon is taon na lahi ang kanang kuan, di ba? Then karon is na modernize na jud siya.
Like military assets, warships, railroads, roads, advanced communication, and etc.
Next is military success. Japan's modernizing efforts paid off when they defeated Russia in the 1906 naval battle in the Sea of Japan, marking their emergence as a modern industrial power. So diri is kuan nila nga na-defeat nila ang Russia nga. Kabalo ang Russia is kuan man gyud na siya, kusgan man gyud na sila nga kuan.
Dominate European power.
Pero but na kuan sila sa Japan because of modernization
of their military assets.
Next is result. Japan became an exemption among non-Western nations, quickly industrializing and becoming a formidable force. Kuan la kusgan na sila nga kanang kuan. Nang maraglisod na siya nimo siya lupig ana.
So much for that sa topic sa colonialization and capitalism and colonialization, then the Japan's economic closure. So let's proceed to the Britain's decline or British Empire decline towards as a global power. That the topic of colonialism and capitalism in the Americas and Australia, and the Japan's economic closure towards the West, and their embracement of Western culture na. So let's proceed to the Britain's decline or the British Empire decline as the world center or dominant global power. So Britain's economical dominance in 19th century is so prevalent. They have pioneered the industrialization, the method of producing goods in conveyor method or mga conveyor belt constructing method pag-construct sa producing this part and connecting it pag human ato. Then their economic influence to countries that they have colonized, such as the America, the Australia, and the much of the Africa. So they have plenty of influence in terms of silang relationship on other countries. So, and then the gold standard in currency is based on British pound at that time in 19th century, before and after the World War One begins or nahitabo. Then another is the spread of industrialization. They pioneered the spread of the creation of industrialization. Much for that, the dominance of Great British Empire in the global scaling. Now let's proceed to how British dominance diminished over time. So first, failure to adapt. Towards the end of 19th century, Britain struggled to adapt to new technologies. During the post-war or post-World War II, the America saw themselves as a new righteous heir of being a global superpower or global leader. Now, nag-shift na in terms of currency from pounds to American dollar ang ginagamit na currency around throughout the economy around the world around the world. Rise of new industries. The steel and chemical industry, which benefit from economic scale, led to the rise of large corporation. Mostly this happens in America and some parts of Europe, but Britain nag-stick sila sa old ways na, so wala sila failure to adapt. Sadly, nagbaba sila in terms of global scaling, in terms of dominance. Next, US advantage. During the World War II and World War I, US was the predominant exporter of goods, war machines, mga technologies through paadto sa Britain and mostly sa mga allied countries sa US. So they are industrial superhouse at that time. So gipulihan nila hinay-hinay ang Britain in terms of being an industrial superpower. So British stagnation. Britain continue with the small medium family size run manufacturing. So as I have said earlier, they failed to adapt to new environment and new technology. So para sa una to pag-revolutionize nila, pag-invento sa industrialization, they maintained that course medium size family run of manufacturing. They couldn't complete a large scaling na ng mga production. So naipulihan nila sa mostly as a global power such as Russia and the America during the Cold War. Next is the 20th century. Capitalism would be tackled is the 20th century capitalism. So, turmoil in the First World War, economic and political instability. The early 20th century saw frequent financial crisis and protection policies like tariffs, which hindered the international trades of those goods and products and services. So, European alliances. The factions of different countries led to the rivalry of camps, such as for instance, the Allied power, the Triple Entente and the Allied Triple Alliance, created by the Italy, Austria-Hungary, and Germany at that time. So this type of faction created a turmoil between those groups. So preparing the stage for inevitable conflict such as the World War I or the Great First War. So during the World War I, the initial cause of the World War I is the assassination of the rightful heir of the Austria-Hungarian Empire, which is Archduke Franz Ferdinand rather. In 1914, in Sarajevo, Serbia. This sparks the World War I. Austria-Hungary giving ultimatum to Serbia to comply the mga request sa Austria-Hungary. Kung di lang ma-comply, they will declare war to Serbia. After nawala na comply itong mga request, nag-declare sila war sa Serbia. Then ang Russian state nag-back sa Serbia, so nag-declare war po sa Austria-Hungary. Tapos allied man ang Austria-Hungary sa Germany, nag-declare war po sa Russia o sa Serbia. Tapos so on and so forth. So mura siya butterfly effect na hitabo atos lahat. So, during the World War I, technological advancement in terms of warfare changed the course of the game. From bayonets ng mga kanon lang, tactical formations from square formation during the Napoleonic War, nag-revolutionize ang war to trench warfare. So, new weapons like machine guns was created, rifles were created, tanks were created, the earliest form of tanks, and also the most game changer technology they have created by the Germans the German created is the tear gas, or the tear gas or hydrogen gas they produce. Ang pinaka-devastating na one product of war because it melts the mask of the wearer. Kanang magsuot ng mask, ma-melt gyapon siya if ang hydrogen gas ang ilang i-employ. Next, the aftermath of the World War I. After the Triple Alliance was defeated, the Austria-Hungary was dissolved into many states, and the Italy shifted during the World War I. Italy shifted nag-shift sila og kampi, so bura sila og nahimog balingbing from Triple Alliance to Triple Entente. Ato siya sa lain kaya nakabalo naman siya, nakasense siya na mapildihay na ilahang group, so nagbalin siya. Tapos ang Germany is pinaka na ego. So ang ilang hari at that time, their Kaiser Wilhelm II, kay nakuan siya na what called this, kanang pahawaon sa isa ka position, or
gipanaog siya
sa position. Na siya yung word, I forgot na. Tapos napanaw siya sa posisyon na ilisan sila democratic country. Ang nagkuan sila is former general lang po during the war, which the name na di na ako ma-remember na. But katong Treaty of Versailles heavily sanctioned or heavily burdened the German economy. Also the pangdaog-daog sa French sa mga German kay to nag-lead sa ilang hatred towards the French. So kato na hatred na accumulated siya into the form of Adolf Hitler na nag-regain of power ulit ang Germany during the end of 1920s, na-stabilize ng economy sa Germany, nawala itong hyperinflation, itong ilang kwarta ninaog maayo na ilang ang values tinapoy na abot na og milyon at that time to na paguman sa post-World War II. Pero after 1920s, na-stabilize nilang economy. So, ready na po sila sa new stage of conflicts, which is ang World War II, led by the Third Reich. So, Britain, after the post-war, after the war, or after World War I, after the Great War, or what you call the Great War, World War I, is Woodrow Wilson, President of America, proposed that they should create a League of Nations to prevent further conflicts in the future, because conflicts is so di siya maayo para sa katawhan and for the economy. Since mahinder ang progress atong civilization, ma-focus siya into warfare. But it failed due to political challenges. Since they didn't lagi appeal ang Germany sa League of Nations. Na-appeal ang Germany sa League of Nations. Or maybe wala. Then challenges arise. Then Britain abandoned the gold standard due to war na sa World War I. So this act destabilized the exchange of rates, international rates and money and global economy. So may siya picture sa mga innovations sa warfare, technological warfare, the creation of ship, tanks, machine guns, gases, tear gases, poisonous gases,
planes.
Yes, planes. So that was it, the topic that we have tackled in contemporary world, the rise of capitalism, the factors contributing in it, how it started, when it started, and where it started, and the 20th century contribution in capitalism, the Britain's decline in global stage as a dominant figure, and the Japanese closure to open economy towards the West. Then that's all. Thank you for watching,
Thank
and
you.
have a great day.